of Game of Thrones left us with a few burning questions, so if you haven't watched it yet, be warned, spoilers ahead. Jon Snow did not want to kill Daenerys Targaryen, but being the guy who always does the right thing no matter what, he knew he had to. But when Dany falls to the floor dead, her dragon Drogon seemingly senses what has happened and quickly appears. And it's quite a sad moment. Yes, the beast had just slaughtered an untold number of innocents in the previous week's episode, but now he's all alone. The last dragon, having lost his siblings and his mother. Drogon rages at this loss, blasting dragon fire throughout the hall, even melting the Iron Throne itself into a molten mound. If any other man was there rather than Jon Snow, they would have surely been torched as well. So why wasn't he? The most obvious explanation is that Jon is actually a Targaryen himself. As we learned in season 7, he was born Aegon Targaryen before he was hidden and had his name changed for his own protection while still an infant. Some history on Targaryens and their dragons. In the distant past, before the era that the HBO series is set, the Targaryens were a dragon lord house, one of the noble families of Valyria, an incredibly powerful society at the peak of culture, magic, and military power, able to raise and bond with dragons and thereby use them as instruments of conquest. When House Targaryen moved from Valyria to Dragonstone in Westeros, they brought 5 dragons with them. Eventually, about 300 years before Daenerys was born, her ancestor Aegon I used these dragons to take over the 7 kingdoms, famously turning his fallen enemies' swords into the Iron Throne and becoming the first king to sit upon it. As we've seen in Game of Thrones, having the power of a dragon is akin to possessing a weapon of mass destruction, and as a result, the Targaryens ruled for generations. More dragons were hatched during House Targaryen's rule, and the beast would bond with a single rider, as Daenerys did with her dragons. Eventually, however, the species became rare and then extinct, particularly after the Dance of Dragons Civil War. So by the time Daenerys was gifted 3 petrified dragon eggs in season 1 of the show, such eggs were very rare indeed. Of course, the future queen was able to walk out of an inferno at the end of that season, unharmed and with 3 baby dragons hatched from the eggs. Just call her the Unburnt. How Daenerys survived that fire isn't entirely clear. GOT creator George R.R. Martin has said that Targaryens are not immune to fire, saying in the past that the birth of Dany's dragons was unique, magical, wondrous, a miracle. She is called the Unburnt because she walked into the flames and lived, but her brother sure as hell wasn't immune to that molten gold. And indeed, in the Game of Thrones finale, Drogon never actually fires directly at Jon. Rather, he just kind of shoots his flame near him. So perhaps Drogon could have burned Jon if he wanted to, but the dragon presumably sensed that Jon is a Targaryen, and harming a member of that family would have gone against his instincts. Don't forget, Jon was previously able to ride Dany's dragon Rhaegal. Surely Rhaegal allowed him to do this because of Jon's Targaryen blood too. It's also possible that Drogon, intelligent creature that he is, realized that his mother's drive to seize the Iron Throne had gone too far and ultimately been the true source of her doom, not Jon. And that's why he melted the thing out of frustration, anger, and mourning. Or maybe it was a combination of the two. So rather than seek revenge against a Targaryen, Drogon simply scoops up his dead mother and flies away, somewhere, seemingly never to be seen again. Which leaves the question of where the last living dragon in the entire world went. Fortunately, we have some hints thanks to King Bran the Broken Small Council scene, where Grand Maester Samwell Tarly says he was last spotted flying east. East of Westeros, fittingly, is the continent of Essos, where Daenerys started her journey. But it's unlikely that Drogon would return there without his mother to guide him. Instead, he likely took his mother back to the birthplace of the Targaryens, Valyria, the smoking and barren wasteland now overrun with stone men following the mysterious doom centuries ago. So what will happen to Drogon? That's a story we likely will not hear told. There aren't any immediate plans for a Game of Thrones sequel, though there is one Game of Thrones spin-off filming now and a couple more reportedly still in development, so we probably won't find out what Bran saw on the other side of his vision of Drogon after that small council scene or why it mattered. With Jon as the last living Targaryen and the final person in the Targaryen line, if he really sticks with the Night Watch's vows and fathers no children, there is no one but Aegon Targaryen, aka Jon, left to potentially tame the last living dragon, and honestly, let poor Drogon live out his days in peace. Well, do you agree with our theories? Tell us in the comments section, and do not forget to check out our Game of Thrones Season 8 review and George R.R. Martin on the differences between the book series and show. And as always, be sure to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.